All right, so I got cut off there, but in any event, it's not going to be close. The Clients are going to run right over Aliquippa, and it's just going to be ugly. It's going to get ugly early, and it's going to stay ugly late. And if you got something else to do, you should be well on your way to whatever you had to do by second quarter. This game will be over quickly. Next game, Mount Lebanon, a -8 at Henderson. This right here is a befuddling contest if you look at these two teams historically. Mount Lebanon is in the middle of a run that, frankly, I think is more improbable than going 16-0, more improbable than winning multiple championships, more improbable than being the leading scorer. Mount Lebanon for 8 consecutive seasons has managed never to go over 500. It's alarming. It's shocking. There's no reason to believe that can continue to happen. At some point, you almost have to get better. This year, Mount Lebanon had 3 first-round draft picks. This is it. If they don't do better this year, then they can count on forever being counted out. That doesn't even hold weight, though, because people already count them out. Nobody expects Mount Lebanon to actually do something. So, if there's a team hot under the radar, it's Mount Lebanon. They have a fairly solid roster. They have young players. They have a good mix of veterans. Was very close to pulling off a Randy Moss trade. Even had a little trade talk with New York for Randy Moss after the fact. So, he's in the mix. He's trying to win now. There was wide belief that he threw away last season, but he ended up, probably one of his best starts ever. He started off 5-2 before he managed to fold and fall apart down the stretch. Henderson is, same whole thing with Henderson. As McNabb goes, that's how Henderson goes. I'm sure he is outraged to see Wag sitting over there holding on to Deshaun Jackson and not being able to collect another Eagles receiver for his trophy cabinet. But it's all about McNabb, and the word is McNabb is healthy and he's good this year. I laugh. I made note of this in the column. Henderson, the difference between Henderson and Drummond is that Henderson does exactly what Drummond would just love to do. He manages to roll out a team and plays generally 500 ball and is always within 1 or 2 games to the playoffs, and even made a run and lucked up into a championship at one point. Drummond, gives intense focus to it, stays engaged in the process, debates on the political stuff during the offseason, gets involved in the picks, thinks ahead, and can't get his team over 500. So, at some point, you got to think that Mount Lebanon is going to break through. I just don't know if it's going to be this week. I actually think Henderson is going to surprise the world and start off 1-0. This is the kind of games he wins. Finally, to the game of the week, Pittsburgh at Sewickley. Forget what the critics say out there. This is definitely the game of the week. It's an evenly matched contest, so Wickley is favored by 4. Pittsburgh is a much improved team. In the first round, they took Derek Alexander or Derek Anderson or whoever they took. It was, questionable. He needed a quarterback. There's no doubt about that. He believed that he went out and got the best quarterback on the board. There is a doubt about that because I don't know that Anderson was the best quarterback on the board. And I think more importantly, you could have got Anderson in the second round, third round. I don't think there was going to be a big run on Derek Anderson in the first round. But, he made the pick, and he's going to have to live with it. But, Joseph Adai and Clinton Portis at running back, there is absolutely nothing wrong with running backs like that. And, Steve Smith is very solid when he comes back from suspension. Larry Fitzgerald is a legitimate number 1, particularly with Kurt Warner slinging the rock. So, Pittsburgh is a much improved team. They will not be a pushover this year. I do think they will make noise in the East. I do think that they have, one of the most talented rosters in the league. Pittsburgh is in that same crazy cycle as Mount Lebanon. Although they've had multiple owners, they've never been to the playoffs either. So, Jason can turn that around. He has his chance at this point in the year to see if he can do something, and we'll see what happens. So Wickley, they own the Central. There's just no doubt about it. So Wickley came in, and said right away they're going to take the Central away from Albany. They wrestled it away from them with no problem at all. They've won 3 consecutive Central Division titles. So Wickley is the only team managed by multiple owners in the league, and they've had very, very strong success during the regular season. They suck in the playoffs. I mean, hey, call it what it is. In the playoffs, that team cannot win a game. They just cannot win, cannot get past the first round. But when you're playing in a division where, you got a guy who's missed the playoffs for 3 years in a row, who is, the best team in your division, then, hey, what do you got to lose? You're doing good if you can just make the playoffs every year. I think Sewickley wants to make a run. They got LJ, they got Steven Jackson, they got Brandon Marshall. They're really trying to build up a strong roster. We'll see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen in this particular game. I personally would like to see Pittsburgh take it because I want to see that franchise get something going. But Sewickley is tough, and I'm gonna have to go with my head with this one, and I'm taking Sewickley. So anyway, I'm signing off this week. I'm trying to keep down on the trash talk for the analysis portion, but don't worry, we'll be back with lots of trash talk when we come to random thoughts. Tune in more for the FAA this year, coming at you every week right here, official picks and predictions.